Some of the weird comments I get being critical of videos I do on the EFAP are very bizarre and contradictory. Some of them state, I haven't seen the EFAP, therefore, why am I criticizing the EFAP? And then I point to the videos showing, nope, I've covered the EFAP, and they say, you haven't covered enough EFAP. And then they say, well, the problem is your EFAP coverage is garbage because I'm not agreeing with Mauler and Rags, or I'm not dealing with the main topic, even when I deal with the main topic. I mean, I get it. The EFAP has really a fanatical fan base who are mostly, not all of them, some of them are actually intelligent people, but a lot of them are just idiots. Despite what people think, I'm not just being prejudiced. And I would have to say, Fringy is probably one of the least worst people they have on. I don't agree with him most of the time, and I often think he, as this essay is going to show, doesn't quite know what he's talking about. But occasionally he does have rare bursts of clarity. And this essay is a little bit all over the place. It does have a pretty strong section on time travel and the way the rules work and the way it's applied to cinema. But even there, I don't think it's as good as he thinks it is. We're just going to go through some of the more prominent things that he says, which are just demonstrably untrue. So, one of the major things he says is he's not going to treat Loki seriously or take it into account with Avengers Endgame. Well, you can't do that. If that is part of the canon, that is part of the canon, and you have to do that. But let's hear his reasons.
And I have elected to completely disregard everything that show has contributed to the MCU canon, because it has only made things worse. According to Loki, the sacred timeline is controlled by 3 robot space lizards, who themselves are controlled by Kang. There is no such thing as free will in the MCU. It was Kang all along. Everybody who ever makes an incorrect choice, that being a choice Kang doesn't like, is melted by the time variant authority. Whichever timeline the offending party came from is then promptly erased from existence. And by erased from existence, I mean sent to the end of time to be eaten by a purple cloud dragon called Sephiroth. Alioth.
Oh, jeez. Sorry. Keep going.
There is no multiverse, or at least there wasn't until a version of Loki called Sylvie stabbed Kang in the gut. Up until that point in the MCU, there were only alternate timelines which exist briefly before being deleted.
So his reasoning is, well, if Kang is correct, there's no free will. Apparently he didn't even watch the show, or he didn't watch it very carefully, because no, they do reintroduce free will. In fact, your own editing shows that. It's not about the statues. The statues were a lie. So apparently he's not paying attention to the show. So there is actually free will in the Marvel Universe. But he does have a point that Kang now is a big shadow over Avengers Endgame because a lot of things that happened were manipulated by a version of Kang, if not one Kang. So Kang was involved somehow. And would that potentially cure certain plot holes? Yes, and yes, potentially you can always say for a certain issue, Kang did it, but he wants to hang on to the early MC. Well, that's his problem. That's not my problem. So I'm going to be a little bit more consistent and just judge it on quality. Whether Kang is there or Kang is not there isn't going to matter. We still have to just judge the quality of the material, so I judge it usually by 2 standards, namely the comic book canon. In other words, does this really conform to the Marvel comics of the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s? And that provides a pretty solid standard. And then we have the more vague standard, which I admit is vague, of contextually judging the film. And by that standard, most of the films in the MCU are not very good. They're not very good according to the source material, and they're not very good films unto themselves. Believe the propaganda and the hype. That's not their problem that you believe that. That's your problem. But let's go a little bit further, because although the time travel section is strong, I think he makes some really nitpicky, moronic mistakes.
I doubtless haven't accounted for every piece of criticism to be proffered in response to this analysis. And hey, if I get things wrong, feel free to point it out. This film simply doesn't care to acknowledge that the Avengers have a significant advantage over Thanos in this battle. Doctor Strange is on the side of the good guys. Why doesn't he trap Thanos in the mirror dimension? Ant-Man is on the side of the good guys. Why doesn't he crush Thanos under his boot? Thor is on the side of the good guys. Why doesn't he throw Stormbreaker at Thanos like he did last time? Or am I to believe that's no longer possible because he's fat? You know, perhaps I'm being too harsh.
Now, this is something I've gonna work on in my own Avengers essay on this, that yeah, Thanos, the hits don't seem to register. He fights Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor. They even land a few direct blows, but doesn't seem to affect him. Like his brain, his body didn't seem to affect him at all. It just kept going. In fact, it's really shocking when he fights Captain Marvel. He's at full strength. He's just throwing her around, and you're like, wait, nothing mattered? Like Cap throwing lightning, Thor throwing lightning, Iron Man blasting you? It didn't have any effect. He's as powerful as he began the fight. You're like, how powerful is he? And if he's that powerful, how are these same people complaining about Rey Skywalker? All they do is complain. Way is so powerful. Way can fly. Way can time travel. Way can do this. Way can do that. Way can fight the Falcon. But with Thanos, they don't seem to care. They're like, wait, how does he have so much power? Doesn't he ever get tired? They don't seem to care. So Fringy deserves a lot of respect for at least not falling for that trap. So I'll give him that. But even there, you got to be honest and pay attention because he is wearing armor. He wasn't wearing armor in Infinity War. Apparently, he just forgot that. Now, why he took off the armor in Infinity War, that was stupid. That didn't make a whole lot of sense. One Thor throws Stormbreaker. He's not wearing armor. Now, does that matter? No, I don't think it does. I mean, this armor would have to be some of the most powerful armor in the universe. He just got that. How did he get it? When did he get it? Still a massive plot hole. He should still be taking a lot of damage. But again, if you were paying attention, he was wearing armor. That doesn't explain everything, but you want to take those things into account. This essay does actually fail on its own grounds. He's really just trying to find the weak points and say, this thing is garbage. But we should say Avengers Endgame is garbage based on fair assessment of what it is, not just making stuff up or forgetting things conveniently because it fits the EFAP method. That's worthless. That's not going to do anything. And it disproves the central tenet. We're the objective critics of the internet and we have a standard. No, you don't. You really don't. You just have your prejudices and you just use the word logic and fact and objectivity a lot. But using those words is meaningless if you don't know what the hell you're talking about. So Fringy at least is one of the least worst of the EFAP, but it's still pretty bad. I would recommend the essay, but I would actually note that I've been sounding the horn on this for quite a while, as have other people to be fair, but I was one of the early people. He wasn't. He's a little late to the party.